Welcome to Season 6 of the Get Out of Teaching podcast. This podcast is for teachers who are considering leaving education and need some support. I'm your host, Elizabeth Diakos. I'm a career transition coach and the host of the Get Out of Teaching private membership community, where we support teachers with the resources they need to create a life they love. Find out more at www.getoutofteaching.com. In this season, we'll be speaking with former teachers who have set themselves up in business, as well as business coaches and solopreneurs who can inspire you as you plan your exit, especially if you've been thinking of creating your own business. But I also want to share something with you because many teachers from the United States want to escape the classroom, but have concerns about losing their health insurance. That's where Nate Beer, the insurance pioneer, can help. Nate offers a free 10-minute initial consultation where he can ask you some questions about your health insurance needs and suggest a plan that is just right for you and your family. Any information you disclose is completely confidential and subject to HIPAA regulations. Tick off one of your biggest concerns about leaving education with Nate Beer, Insurance Pioneer. You can book a call with Nate at theinsurancepioneer.setmore.com. Episode 4. Hi everyone and welcome to the show. On today's show, I'm really excited to be talking with Cindy Molchaney, who is the founder of Course Paradise and a creator of over 80 online courses. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So Cindy, whereabouts are you from?
So I am from Kona, Hawaii, which is on the big island, Hawaii Island, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So I grew up there, spent about 25 years living on the continental US, and just moved back there with my daughter and family about 2 years ago.
Okay. And so have you got other family on the island as well?
No, everyone migrated away and went their separate ways. But you know, once my daughter was born, I realized I wanted to raise her where I was raised. So I kind of made my way back there during the middle of the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that would have been fun, just trying to arrange transport and everything while the world was shut down.
It was wild. It was totally wild. We lived in a trailer on the beach in California for a couple months while we were trying to figure out how to make it work. And then we had to self-isolate, couldn't leave our condo when we arrived to Hawaii for 2 full weeks. We had to get like food delivery, everything. They threatened that if you actually left your condo, this was like early pandemic when everyone was freaked out. You know, if you actually left the front door, you could get arrested. So we stayed inside for 2 weeks. It was weird.
Yeah, that's still happening here I don't know if they're actually doing it, but there's that sort of veiled threat that might happen. So you just stay inside. All right. So moving on from the pandemic, which I think we're all well and truly over. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help people.
Yeah. So I have been a tinkerer online probably since 2012. I had an online job board early on where I taught myself how to build a website and monetize that. And then somewhere along the lines, I met someone who became my both mentor and client back in 2015, Melanie Duncan. And she tapped me on the shoulder to run her course business for her. I had no experience building online programs. I had taken maybe 1 or 2 online courses at that point. We connected from a community, I think, that I signed up for a course. So that's how we met. But it was all very new. You know, people were very averse to investing in strangers on the internet at that point, especially with regards to learning something. And so I was like, you know, this sounds really interesting. She was very smart. And we got along really well. So I said, sure, let me help you with your business. And she taught me everything that she knew about it and what she needed done. And it was just, as soon as it happened, I was like, this is it. I'm hooked. I don't want to do anything else. I want to just create online programs. It's creative. It's intellectually stimulating, super fun.
Okay. And so you started doing that for her. And what was your actual role? Like, what did you actually have to do for that?
Yeah. So she had a monthly program that people paid her a fee to learn from her and get mentorship for her with regards to how to start an online business. So she taught other people, especially like e-commerce business owners, how to start online business. And so I created monthly trainings for her program. we'd brainstorm what the topics were. We'd ask her membership what they wanted to learn next. I would go research that. I would go put the material together. I'd create resources. They were all very, they were tangible kind of multimedia guides. I learned how to develop slides and record slides and do, walk people through a process. I learned some instructional design elements in that process. So it was super creative too. Like I got to embellish, we made it pretty because her brand was kind of high end. So I got a little bit of a graphic design crash course as well. So it was just really fun. I got to every month, I just had to pull together a course on a certain topic and deliver it to her people.
Right. So if you were going to do something like that for my private membership group, it might be how to set up your LinkedIn profile or something like that. Is that right? And how long?
I've created that course before.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should chat after the show. So when you do that kind of thing, how long would that course, like if in terms of the client, how long would it take for them to watch that video, that set of videos?
It would be something on the mini course side, it would be something that someone could go through in like an hour. But if you want to actually take action on things, it's like that you can consume the content in an hour or so, but there might be like steps that you have to take in order to actually see results from consuming that content. So in terms of executing on that from the learner side, it depends. So, but a LinkedIn profile, it's something that you could probably work on over the course of a couple of days and actually see results from it.
Right. Yeah. Great. Okay. Yeah. So that makes really good sense. So in fact, that is the next thing I've been thinking of doing, which is why it's like top of mind for me in the private membership, because that's what people are saying that they need now. Because a lot of teachers don't have that set up, and when you go searching for them, they've still got their little grey profile picture with no face on it. So yeah, it's a good place.
And you can find a lot of good information on like Google, but behind a paywall, like if you actually invest in a course or a program, like you're a member, like it's not that people try to withhold things from a Google search, but you're just going to have a more cohesive point of view, especially if you work with an expert on LinkedIn profiles and you know how to put it together. So yeah, so it's
targeted to exactly what you need rather than this extraneous information.
Exactly.
You may
and you're not just going.
Yeah, I hate rabbit holes here. I go to watch YouTube and they'll spend the first minute and a half explaining why I need this to learn how to do this, and I'm like, no, I already know I need to learn. Just get to the point. Come on, hurry up. Yeah. I've got to work out how to, fix my widget. All right. Yeah. So you started working for somebody else, creating their courses, and that was just a paid role. Is that right? Like you were just getting paid to do it?
Yeah, I was a contractor, independent contractor for that person. And, to be honest, the person had a lot of influence. She had a huge email list. And for like the first part of it, when I was working with her, I was a little like, oh, do I want to be creating someone else's, like, because her name was on everything, right? I'd create the material and we put her name on it, and she was brilliant. So I wouldn't have done it if she wasn't brilliant herself. But I was providing my intellectual property and pretty much giving it to her, right? Because I would do the research, I'd put it all together. And for a while at the very beginning, I was like, do I want to do this for someone else, or shouldn't I create a course for myself? Shouldn't I grow an email list and sell to the millions of people? And it was actually my husband at the time that kind of gave me, like, kind of sat me down and was like, hey, look at your life. It's pretty chill. Like, you don't have a lot of stress. You don't work full time. You're making good money. Why do you want to overcomplicate something that's really good? And I had to, kind of check myself, and was finally like, yeah, you're kind of right. So I stopped chasing my own like desires for, I don't even know, like ego desires of having a name for myself. Maybe? And I just, like, I guess, I think that's what we're taught, that we, like, if you're going to be online, you have to, be an influencer or whatever. At the end of the day, I have no desire to really be, I have a point of view that I'd like to get out to the world, but I don't really want to be the person that has, a gazillion people following them. I got way too much going on in my life. So I had a little gut check with myself, and I realized that working with clients that had that influence and they wanted to have all that stress, I was good in the background.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I guess so. That part of, as you're talking, I'm thinking, but don't you want people to know that it was you who created that thing?
It's kind of like being a ghost. So I create courses and online programs for other people. It's a lot like being a ghostwriter for a book. So, and I don't know what that's like to be a ghostwriter. I think that, everyone has to go through that journey themselves to whether they can handle being anonymous in the background. But for me, the trade-off of like being anonymous, the trade-off was a lot better because I just had life was good. My job was good. I had great stability, good pay. And it wasn't really, I'm kind of an introvert by nature, for the most part. So it was actually a good fit for me.
So your name, Cindy, your name wasn't on any of it. You didn't even say like edited by nothing.
Nope. Wow. There was a relationship where I worked with her community and actually helped people implement the things that I created, but they thought that it was my client that actually built everything. And I was totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. All right. So how have you kind of evolved since then? Because how long ago was that when you were working with her?
I started working with her in 2015. She was a client of mine for over 5 years. At the beginning, I'll just be straight up, it was super hard. I thought I was like drowning. I didn't know what I was doing. I never created an online program before. I felt like I had can write, but I wasn't my polished writing wasn't very good. Definitely not a video editor. My first go at it was a hot mess, but they were very patient and they helped me refine my skills. And at the very beginning, I was hustling to just get this, the one training that I had for her, that I had to produce for her done. And after, kind of just developing the muscle that you have to develop to be a course creator, and be able to put programs together, after it became like something I could execute. That deliverable for her was something I could actually execute in like less than a week. So I suddenly had way more time on my hands. And so I started actually working with multiple clients at one time. And just doors kept on opening up. I didn't have to advertise for my business. Luckily, I was very blessed in that way. My word of mouth fueled my business, and I just had clients who wanted to pay really good money to have me create their programs for them. And so I just slowly, over the course of a couple of years, by 2018, things were pretty rocking. I actually had a team working with me. I had a quasi agency where I was developing courses for people. But I like being a solopreneur. If you know that term, if your audience knows that term, a solopreneur, someone that works by themselves in their business. I really like that. So an agency really wasn't the direction that I wanted to go in. So I kind of toned everything down.
It's very freeing, isn't it, to have that life? Like I literally can work, apart from if I'm on a plane and there's no internet, I can literally work from anywhere in the world. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't imagine working in an office. So
yeah. Well, I've been up this last week. I've been up in Daylesford, which is a sort of, there's like natural springs up there and very leafy, and we're sitting at a friend's house at her second desk, and we've been like buddying, writing together. And it's just like I've got that freedom. It's really lovely. The only downside is the petrol cost to get there. That's
for sure
crazy right now. Okay, so you started out doing that, and then you said you were working with your first client until about 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, we worked together for over 5 years. So 2015 to 2020. Yeah. So I started branching out and started adding additional clients besides her around 2017. And then had clients through 2020. And then that's when I launched my coaching program in 2021. So I was creating courses for clients, kind of had this agency, decided I didn't really want to have an agency, toned everything back. And then people were asking me, well, you have a pretty good business. Like, how do you do that? Like, how did you build is there demand for people to create courses for other people? And I was like, yes, please, someone come help me, because I can't do this all by myself. And I was like pretty much the only person that I knew online that was creating courses for other businesses. I wasn't working for corporate clients. I wasn't working in education. I was strictly in the online space, and there was no one doing it. So a couple virtual assistant contacts that I had were like, we'd really like to pick your brain. And I was like, well, maybe let me put a workshop together. This could be something. So in January of 2021, I hosted a workshop. I launched this free workshop. About 200 people showed up and signed up a handful of people. And that's what prompted my coaching program to start. So my focus shifted in 2021 from serving clients to actually helping other people learn how to become what I call myself, which is a course business consultant. So I pretty much now focus my energy and time on training other people to serve this industry, because there's really not that many people doing it.
Okay. And so in doing that training, then have you kind of made yourself redundant?
I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Yeah. I mean, part of, I want the people that sign up with me that I mentor to have the business that comes to me. I would prefer that. It's very, like, I want to change the online course industry where, it's different, like the e-learning as a whole, and your audience might know a little bit about this because they're in this space too, but e-learning as a whole has a horrendous course completion rate. There's, whether it is, employee retention training and stuff, like corporate is maybe a little different. I don't know if that qualifies, but so I'm not sure exactly like the quantifiers of the studies that are out there that show how bad e-learning is, but e-learning as a whole has a horrible course completion rate. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's not a bad reputation, but it's going to have one if they don't fix what's broken about it, which is, people invest a lot of money. They get sold on, promises because someone has a flashy webinar and sales page, and then they don't deliver on the back end and the course stinks. And this person obviously doesn't know how to help guide someone's journey to, to transformation. So my real mission in my business is to actually get as many people to convert into like having a high integrity industry and get people to actually create courses that get results. Like a lot of people that are course creators learn digital marketing first, and they've never taken an instructional design course ever in their whole life. They have no idea. Like they literally learn how to create a course from YouTube videos. And that's probably a marketer that had something to sell to them. So there's a big disconnect gap between, in terms of quality, the chasm, right? There's like really well made online courses, and then there's a ton of just poo. So I've
done a couple myself. Like I started a few years ago, I started doing there's a qualification here if you want to work in tertiary, not university, but the TAFE sector, the tech training sector. You need to do this certificate for, and it's an 8-day in-person course, or you can do it online. It was like $100, but it was excruciating, so terrible, and impossible to find the resources that you need. You couldn't do searches for things within the platform, and oh my gosh, I hated it so much. So I gave up on that, and then I did another one more recently when my daughter's childcare center was really short of staff. I said, well, I'll just come and help. And they said, well, you need to be working towards this other qualification. So I did that. I started it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it was taking so long. And I'm like, I've already got a teaching degree. Do I really need to spend all this time doing this terrible course? So I gave up on that as well. So I'm a quitter, definitely. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Most people do. 95% of people do.
I think they're usually way too long. Like, you don't need to spend that long in this platform to get the result that you're supposed to get. So I love the idea of like streamlining the process, making it clear, making it clean, and making it beautiful. Love it. Okay, so now you said to me before we started recording this, like we spoke the other day, that you originally created that training for virtual assistants, but that you started getting a different bunch of people wanting to join you on the courses.
Yeah. So, teachers and nurses, and lawyers. Lawyers was maybe not as many, but teachers and nurses. So, and the timing of this free workshop that I was putting out there, that I was targeting virtual assistants to come in, inviting them to come in, was right when the pandemic was kind of on fire, and people were, schools all across the world were shut down. So it made sense once it started happening that, people are, they're at home, they've got time on their hands, they don't know what everything's not working out the way that they thought. But yeah, so teachers and nurses really started to come into my world, kind of wondering like, hey, like, not every, this is starting your own business. This is not getting a job with an employer. There's no guarantee of health insurance. So it's a risky endeavor for sure to kind of consider going out on your own. But it is attractive for a lot of people who have been, disappointed with the way that their traditional career paths have turned out. And because we are helping people in this, like we're genuinely creating programs that change lives, I think that's very attractive to teachers and nurses who want to do that. That's why they have a servant heart. They wanted to get into teaching or healthcare because of that. So, and the fact that there's so many transferable skills into the work that I do that resonate with teachers and nurses. I think it just made a lot of sense for those that aren't adverse to having their own business.
Yeah. So right at the start of the pandemic, that's when I launched this podcast. It was right within a few weeks of it all blowing up. And I actually interviewed someone who's an online course creator way back then.
Okay.
And it was like, I'm sure she was just so excited because finally she was coming into her own. She was doing stuff for corporate. It was a different kind of scenario to you, but it must have been just so thrilling to think finally this skill set that I have is now going to be like kind of more accessible, and people are going to be more willing to go down this pathway because of the situation that we're now in. Like if I'd had shares in Zoom,
and
how happy would we have all been if we'd had shares in Zoom?
My gosh.
The pandemic.
I know, right? Well, it's interesting too, because of the e-learning specifically. So before the pandemic, e-learning was on a trajectory of growth, and e-learning, when I talk about e-learning, I'm talking about the entire industry from corporate to government to education, and then the independent sector, which is where I work. And I think I might have my numbers skewed, but like in 2019, the industry was projected to be worth like $350 billion. Wow. Not too bad, right? Yeah. And then the people that do all the stuff, that study the stuff and create statistics, they came out right at the beginning of the pandemic, pandemic started in 2019, right? So in 2019, when things hit and people were shifting, like schools were canceled, everything was kind of moving on, like, whoa, this is a big deal. This is going to really change the name of the game. They projected that by 2022, the e-learning industry, I think maybe it was 2024, one of these years coming up, it was going to be worth $650 billion.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, then the pandemic kept going, right? And suddenly you've got investment capital going into e-learning. There's tons of new tools. Companies are saying they're never going back to in-person. Schools are going to be permanently offering an online. And then also people got to experience life a year without having to drive anywhere, and they kind of like it, right? So everything's changed. And so then the people that did this work and studied the stuff came out last fall, like in November, and said that e-learning is not going to be $650 billion. By like 2026, they're now saying it's going to be over $1 trillion. And so, I mean, just astronomical skyrocket to the moon growth. So I'm noticing that in my business. The instructional design, like teachers are also flocking to instructional design roles. Like if you want to get hired by a company, there's tons of those opportunities. But I think we have more fun in this independent. We don't have to work in so many boxes of rules. Like you can just be more creative. So I like it.
And also I guess there's even if you end up in those roles, you've got a skill set now that you can take with you to whatever else is next. If you decide to go down that more corporate pathway. Okay. Right. So do you want to explain it? So we've discussed beforehand about an offer that you're going to pitch now, I guess, in a sense, to the listeners. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I met Elizabeth through her group, Get Out of Teaching, and we connected. And I host this workshop that people have I have a woman, and I'm hoping that in in the offer that I'm going to share with you guys, that she's going to show up and share her story. But she's a teacher that left teaching. She attended my it's a free 5-day workshop where I walk people through the business model of how to become an online course business consultant. I don't hold anything back. There is no investment to join this. I really want to give everyone a leg up. But one of my connections went through my workshop. She was able to quit her teaching job, and she's on track for like almost $1 million business, which is, she's an outlier, right? She's just crazy. She has an agency now. She's discovered that she's a 100% full-blown entrepreneur. She's blossomed. So I want to interview her soon for myself. But yeah, so I want to offer to teachers. I had this, can I share a little story?
Please.
I was in a group. And I didn't share this with you when we met, but I was in a private mastermind, online mastermind with people that are making over $1 million a year in their business, online business owners. And this one woman was sharing her strategy for growing her business with other people that were all making over $1 million a year in their business. And these are people that have really lean companies. They have huge profit margins. They're not, they don't have a hard time, right? They're financially doing very well. And she was sharing the strategy with them on how to create this program that would be perfect for, like, it's essentially what I've created in my business and for my clients. She was sharing what I do actually. And all the people were asking, like, well, that sounds like it's hard. Like, that sounds like it's a hard, like, project to bring to life. Like, where would I find someone that can actually do this? And I'm like biting my tongue. I'm like, I know how to do this stuff. And I know people that know how to do this stuff now. And this is what the woman said. She said, go to the desperate teacher groups. They will work for practically nothing because they want to get out of teaching. And I just, like, my heart sank. I was like mortified, right? Like, I just thought it was a horrible thing to say. It upset me, like legitimately upset me. So that's when I kind of started thinking, like, how can I help more people get aware of, like, options, right? It's like, yes, I have a program that people can join and I can help them develop these skills as a course business consultant, where we learn digital marketing and instructional design and owning your own service-based business. But how can I help people like one of my past members of my group who want to just take some knowledge and run with it? So I have this 5-day program. It's completely free. I walk you through the entire business model. I show you exactly how I did it and how I keep a very lean and business where I get paid up front for my time. I'm valued for my time. I am not like, no one looks at me and says I'm desperate and she's not worthy. I'm paid very well. And so I walk people through exactly how to do that in 5 days. And yeah, my goal at the end of it is that you can actually do something with this training. It's not a webinar. It's not a pitch where, if for anyone that doesn't know what, like, webinars, the intent of them is any sales webinar really at the end of the day is to get you to feel pain of disconnect. They want you to feel the gap between what you know and what you don't know. And then they want to agitate that gap and as a lever to get you to buy whatever they're selling. It's kind of manipulative, but also very effective, which is why people do it. This is not a webinar. So this is actually a workshop where you actually can gain some serious skill at the end of it.
Okay. And so, but really, this is about opening people's eyes to what's possible and exploring opportunities that might be out there.
Yep.
As a pathway to transition. So this whole season of the podcast is really around setting yourself up in business and the process that you follow to be able to do that. And so I'm going to be talking to all different kinds of people who have done that, or who have an offer that they might be able to share with teachers to help them, grow their own business. I'll talk to anyone who's going to have that conversation, because what I've learned along my pathway is that there are so many options and so many possibilities, and I don't think there is one right way. Like, I get so many emails for people pitching something to me. Like, I had one this morning about getting podcast guests and a way of getting paid to bring people onto your show. I haven't read the email yet. I just saw the headline at the top, and I'm like, okay, but is that, like, how do I choose? How do I choose which way to jump? And so I think what you're suggesting is that in 5 days, you can find out enough to know is this a pathway I want to pursue?
Sure.
And
Yep.
and be able to make that decision. And then I'm assuming that if they then wanted to go in and go deeper and learn more, that you'd be able to guide them through that process as well.
Absolutely. Yep. And then, you know, those people that get through the 5 days, they are either sure that that's what the direction they want to go in, and it just sets us up for success moving forward together. And like I said, or it can give you at least a tremendous amount more insight into what will be involved to start your own service-based business online.
Yeah. When I before I started teaching, I studied fine art, and to get into that course, I did this little portfolio development course. And at the end of that, I thought, oh, maybe I'll become a graphic designer. So I went, my cousin was a graphic designer, so I went and stayed up in Sydney. I live in Melbourne, so I went up to Sydney for a couple of days, left my 5 children behind with my husband, and stayed with my cousin, went into work with him every day, and realized that I would rather gouge my eyes out than be a graphic designer. It was just
seriously
just clicking the little mouse back and forth. I hated it so much. And I'm like, what
death by Photoshop.
Oh yeah. But what a gift to find out in 2 days. I didn't even actually, the second day we went out to lunch and I just didn't go back. I just said, look, I'll meet you at the end of the day and we'll go home together. I didn't even go back. I was so bored. I just couldn't bear it. I'm like, thank you so much for showing me that this is not my pathway. I was so grateful. It's a gift, you know, to eliminate a possibility that you were considering and to know for sure that you made a good choice. So then I ended up studying fine art, and then I got into art teaching, and here I am now. Right. So it's been who knew that was going to go that way? I didn't know.
I love those journeys.
So your offer is really to give people the chance to just test the waters to see if this is going to be their thing, but also to learn some skills along the way so they actually go away better equipped if they do decide to follow that pathway. And then at some point later, I imagine that there's going to be some further training if they want to take that up, and that would be obviously paid. But but that would be where you would show them how to set things up, run a business, that kind of stuff. Is that right? Is that what you do?
Yeah. So the incubator, which is the program that I offer at the end of this training, is all about, where the course industry is going wrong drastically, in my opinion, is where people are digital marketers and they want to have a course, and so they slap one together. That's for the most part what's going on. But there's this huge consideration of instructional design. And a lot of times instructional designers like, oh, I should create a course, but they have no digital marketing skill. So this is actually like the confluence of both is what I teach, and mixed in with business agility. So how do you actually have a simple, sustainable one-person operation business successfully without like inundating your life, without like stressing yourself out, working where you only have to work part-time. It's actually can be very doable, but you have to do it smart. So my program is all about how to build that business for yourself, help your clients build that business for them in terms, and I don't want to overemphasize that part. It's a minor piece. It's all in how you plan your courses. So the planning of an online course involves consideration of instructional design and digital marketing. If you compartmentalize the two, you're setting yourself up for overwhelm. So I teach would-be course business consultants how to make those determinations, how to consider those two in tandem. So you're going to get an education in instructional design, in digital marketing, and business agility. And that's why I consider like what I do probably one of the most in-demand service-based businesses that are out there right now, because people aren't looking at the holistic point of view. So that's what I teach in my program.
Yeah, and I've found that along the way for me. You know, there's like Russell Brunson talking about marketing funnels, and that's all he talks about. And I'm like, but what am I bringing these people into? You know, if you don't know. And you know, I've kind of evolved clumsily along the way to the point now where I can.
So have I.
But I can help people now. But the thing is, imagine if I'd had a really clear pathway. And I did take courses. I did some online courses that were really helpful. But at the end of the day, what I'm doing is quite specific and niche, and nobody was really offering exactly what I'm doing. So I had to kind of make that happen for myself. But it sounds like if you've got a bit more of a clear picture by doing this preliminary training, then you do decide that's your thing, then what you can offer is actually streamline that whole process for people.
Oh,
it's worth a huge amount.
Yeah.
I can't count the hours and time and money I've spent on training. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing what a trained course business consultant can do for a business. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. The students that I teach now do it for their clients, but we can offer, like, the service that we can offer, you can get paid up front for helping someone plan something that's going to make them millions of dollars in their business. So that's really valuable. So you're getting paid really well for a very small amount of your time when you are doing this work, because the light bulb, the aha moments that your clients will have as a result of you bringing the instructional design piece and the digital marketing piece together is so powerful for them in that moment, because no one's ever done that before. And suddenly they can see the entire vision and it's not overwhelming. And they're just like, oh my God, where have you been my whole life? But just like you, I wouldn't be in this place that I am now if I didn't have that first client that helped kind of give me that space, time, and income. She also trained me. It was a beautiful thing. I was very fortunate to have someone that I learned from, and I had all this extra time to tinker, because I created my first programs that I created for myself, as side projects, were total failures. And I learned from those failures. So one of the things that I teach, I talk with the people that join my program is lean on me. I've done it more than enough. So I want to prevent you from having to the long road that I've taken.
Yeah, totally. I get that completely. All right. So what other questions should I be asking you, Cindy, before we wrap this up today?
Well, the date of the workshop, do you want to share that?
Yes. Excellent.
Okay, cool. So let me pull up my calendar, because I actually, now that I said that, my brain just went numb. Where it's going to be held in a pop-up Facebook group. And the training actually gets started on Wednesday, the 24th of August. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, that's the right date, right? I think so. But we're going to get
also getting my calendar up. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Wednesday,
yeah.
Wednesday, US, the 24th of August. The trainings were going to be held in a pop-up Facebook group. So in order to get access to the training, because I want to replicate a live environment and in-person environment as much as possible. I want us to get to know each other. I want to find out what you need, participants that come to it. So I want to be there and I want to meet you, and it's not just some hands-off event. So we're actually going to be, the group will open around the 20th of August. So come on in, we'll get to know each other. We'll kind of, just have some fun. And then the training is 5 days starting on the 24th. And the group will cease to exist, I think, on September 1st. So once it's done, I'm not going to keep you in some Facebook group that I market to, where I actually shut it down and kick you out, and we go live our lives. So,
but also then if they want to connect with you beyond that, then they are obviously able to.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Of course. That sounds amazing. And I love the idea of a pop-up Facebook group. I never would have thought to do that. It's really cool.
Yeah. They're fun. I've hosted a lot of the workshops I've done over the years. I've been in temporary Facebook groups. So
yeah, nice. Okay. And so that's really going to be open for about 12 days or so?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end of that time, if people want to continue to work with you, that they can talk to you about what that might look like.
Sure.
And if they decide it's not their thing, then they're free to, as you say, go live their lives. And is this live? What if you can't come? What if the timing's not right?
Oh, sure. I will go live in the group. This is one of the benefits of having a pop-up Facebook group. And guess what? Your clients, as a course business consultant, will pay you to create these experiences for them in their business. So it's a very high touch experience that people value a lot. But I digress. But yes, the videos are live, and I don't know what time. We haven't decided what time live they will be, but they will go live. But the beauty of a Facebook pop-up group is that the videos live in there. for the duration of the group. So if you can't show up, you still get to come back and watch the replay. You get to see the questions people ask. You still get to ask questions in the comments, though it is always better if you can be there live.
And
it's
ask
not like
questions in the chat. So will you like live stream into the group? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
Live stream into the group. Yep.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so, and I guess what the other thing we'll do from my end is we'll advertise this in the Get Out of Teaching Facebook group so people know where to get this information. I'm also going to put it in the newsletter, which you may, by the time this goes to air, you might have already received that. We'll toot your horn so that people know this is happening. I think it's a great opportunity, at least to give people that chance to explore this as a possibility, see if it's their thing, and, you know, test the waters and, you know, see what's out there, because like I said, there's so many different pathways out of teaching. Might as well give it a try.
And it's such an overwhelming, vulnerable time to consider a career change. So having, like, one of my motivations is to provide as much valuable information to help you in that decision-making process as possible, with zero attachment. Like, I just want to be helpful. I don't want, like, there's no attachment on my end. It's something that I just really want to do and help people make it easier, because it's not easy.
And just something that you mentioned before, you just touched on briefly about health insurance. So the listeners will have heard at the intro of this episode that Nate Beer, who's a insurance pioneer, he's a sponsor for this season of the podcast. That's another piece, I think, in that equation, that having someone who can help you to work out how you're going to manage that stuff if you're in the States. In Australia, it's not such an issue, but I know it is a big deal in the States. Having someone who can help you manage that kind of thing, and you see, okay, so I've got that piece sorted, I've got this learning sorted, I now know how I can actually leave well, or maybe transition out while you're still working, or work part-time. A lot of teachers do their next step while they're working part-time, or they just take up casual teaching, so they're just going in as a sub. And so there's lots of different ways that you can get out, and this is just another option for people to consider, I think.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question I did not warn you about, Cindy, so brace yourself. What's your favorite song?
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? That's easy, because I just was on a coaching call about an hour before this, and my co-host asked me to play something, and on the spot, I was like, I don't know what to play that's upbeat, that's fun. Anyway, there is, I don't know if he's still alive. He might have passed away, but Bill Withers, and he's got a song called Use Me. And it's just funky, and it's a love song, and it's good. And it's from like the 70s. So
I'm totally into 70s. Okay. That's my era. And tell me what is it about the song? Like, what is it, the words or the beat? Like, what is it?
I like the lyrics for sure. It's, like I said, it's a little bit of a love song, but like there's angst in it a bit, but it's simple. But yeah, you just like, you can't help but like move your head when you're like, it's a great work song. And anyway, people on the call love that I played it. So it makes me feel good.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. All right. I think we've covered off everything. What have I forgotten? What else do we need to remind people of?
I think we're good. I just, I invite anyone that's interested to come with an open mind and open heart, and just consider the possibilities. I will be providing as many examples and case studies and visuals to help you see the pathway. This is only to provide clarity and not to add ambiguity into any decision making that you have. So
great. And I will make sure that we've got all these links and everything to all of the things that we've discussed today in the show notes for this episode. And I'll also be putting this into the Get Out of Teaching Facebook group and into the newsletter as well. So
awesome.
If you miss all of that, you're on your own. But no, I think it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, Cindy, for coming on the Get Out of Teaching podcast today. It's been great having this chat, and really enjoyed hearing your story too.
Thank you. That was fun. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Get Out of Teaching podcast with your host, Elizabeth Diakos. If you want to hear the conversation that continued after we stopped recording, you'll find that in the After the Bell section of the Get Out of Teaching private membership community, where along with a heap of resources to support you, you'll get access to group coaching with me. Join a community of teachers who are ready right now to plan their exit. Find out how at www.getoutofteaching.com. I've been where you are now, and you don't have to do this alone.